on bad foods.
Hey,
Well,
brother, what's up?
What's going on, my friend? How are you doing, Robert?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, and we've already got screams from the crowd. We got Love Tina 2010 is in the house, one of my favorite people. Good to see her. She's screaming our names and ranting and raving already. So I'd love to see that. Love to see it.
Hey, love
It's good to
Tina.
see everybody. Robert and I decided to do a little bit of an impromptu, just jump on here. I know I had it actually set to go live, but then we didn't know if we were really doing this or not. But how could we miss out on this? And I want to say hello to Bootsy. She is actually another content creator. Robert, I don't know if you've been able to venture over to her channel as of yet. She was very kind to reach out to me not too long ago in regards to some of my content, if she would be able to use some of that. And seems as though I ventured over, and I think she's going to be a great addition to the platform. I'm very interested in maybe, mingling a
Oh yeah.
little bit with her. So that's definitely awesome to see her. Boosie, welcome to our live show. This is Robert from True Crime Unraveled. He's a brother of mine, very good at
Hello.
what he does as well. So it's good to see. I got my brother from all over the world over there, I say, because he's overseas. Ronnie Sutton is in the house tonight. This is another amazing gentleman that's lived the experiences of life. And I am privileged to have gotten to know him and be able to talk back and forth with him as well. So everybody, okay, Lisa, I get it. Everybody, Robert did let me know that they're watching the president and going through that political stuff. And I just felt as though I had to get on, interrupt all of that so that you people could legitimately see why you need better politics in this country. If you got to look at somebody like me, you probably need better politics. So, Robert, I'm sure you noticed, just like everybody else probably has as well, Judge Hippler has not only made the very big statement that he's ready for this case to begin being more transparent and more visual to everybody out there, removing a lot of this ceiling and crap that's been going on by both sides. And he even kind of pointed the finger in the prosecution's direction when he's making these motions to the court. So that's good to see, my friend. That's good to see.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
About damn time. 2.5 years of everything being sealed and redacted. Yeah, it's about time we have a judge that's telling the prosecution, no more.
Well, I think it's about time it goes both ways, to be honest with you, because he made a pretty bold statement, Mr. Hippler did, when he said, most of this is already out there as it is. And now we're finally all getting on that same page where it's let's move forward. We get the points, even though now, man, he opened up a bunch of docs today, and we're going to dive into some of those tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep this show pretty brief. We're going to get to the point. We're not going to do a lot of like discussing normal everyday life and things of that nature. We're going to get right to some of these docs, and we're going to dive into these for you and have true crime discussion based on these docs. And Don Caps, it's great to see you as well. I love to you. As a matter of fact, I was actually going to send you a text message and an email today, Don. So I'm glad you stopped by. Look for that as I'll get you out something here very soon. But ladies and gentlemen, I mean, these new docs, they're very informative. I mean, they got me a little bit sparked back up. Hey, Justice, it's great to see you as well. It got me sparked up, Robert, to where now I'm going to be putting out some new content. I'm really kind of got some jazz back in my step. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I get 5 years younger. Jen's birthday is coming up on Thursday, and she's getting 10 years older. So I really enjoy this concept. And then our 16th year wedding anniversary is on Friday. So it's a big week and a lot of great documents to discuss. You ready to hop into some of these,
Yeah.
Robert?
Oh,
Why don't we
yeah.
start? Go ahead.
My wife said that expect a voice message tomorrow from all three of us singing happy birthday to you.
And see, this is why I just try to wear my earbuds on my birthday, and I try to bury my head in the pillow. Everybody can reach out, and Love Tina's is March 9th, so she's grouped right into this. Everybody's more than willing to reach out and tell Jennifer happy birthday and wish her well for getting older. Just remember, everybody, I'm turning back the clock, so I'm not getting older. I'm getting 5 years younger, and that's my point, and I'm sticking to it. That's it. If anybody disagrees with that, then we no longer have to be friends, ladies and gentlemen. We no longer have to be friends if you don't like the idea of me getting younger. But we're going to jump in, Robert, right away, because the big new
Okay.
thing out there is obviously these new photographs that have been shared within a document. And we're going to see what I believe the prosecution is trying to claim would be Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra. And in my opinion, this is exactly why people have to be very careful, because this is actually coming from the camera, the 1112 King Road camera, right on that corner where everybody felt as though you were going to get that car not only entering, but you were going to also get it exiting the neighborhood. So I brought this document up here in front of us. I'm going to scroll through it. Robert, if you feel you seeing this, because I'm going to be in the other window kind of browsing through and reading some of this, and I'm going to get down to the videos as well. So let me jump into this other. If you have any issues, Robert, let me know, and then we'll
All
go
right,
from there, okay?
Okay.
Robert might be muted. Now, this is
No, I'm not
motion
muted.
in limine number 12. This is obviously by the defense. Okay, that's good. This is the make and model of the suspect vehicle. It comes now, Bryan C. Kohberger, buying through his attorneys of record, and hereby moves this honorable court to exclude at trial testimony by any state witnesses to the make and model of the vehicle seen on the 1112 King Road surveillance footage. So it sounds like to me when they say surveillance footage, Robert, that makes me feel as though that they probably have actual video, don't you think?
Yeah. It could be from the light bulb cam, or it could be from someplace else. But yes, it does sound like they have actual footage. Ooh. Is that the light bulb cam? I do think it is.
You know, Robert, I noticed I had myself muted. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So this
I guess
is
I guess being muted
obviously
while we talk runs in our group.
the the outward bound for 20.
Yeah.
Okay. So these
Okay.
were shared via email, and it states below it these photos are from the 112 King Road camera. Special Agent Immel did not make a vehicle identification from this footage. Rather, as noted in emails between Mr. Immel and the other FBI Special Agent Edward Jacobson, it's clear indication of the make and model of the vehicle in this video was made via separate video taken from the 1125 Ridge Road, which obviously we don't have released to us. But the key statement to this, Robert, the one that I took a lot away from is there is no continuous footage linking the video of the vehicle at the 1112 King Road and that from the Ridge Road. So additional surveillance footage depicts vehicles, but they are not identifiable vehicles. So
Wow.
pretty much what they're stating, in my opinion, Robert, this is my opinion,
Okay.
they're pretty much stating, okay, we do have a visual of these cars, you know, and they're driving on these various different places, but because
Yeah.
they can't connect the dots of this route, because they're not connecting the dots, they can't piece together whether this is one continuous drive of the same car. And if they're unable to use the majority of these videos or pictures to make any identifiable, you know, picture of that vehicle. I mean, this vehicle to me, I'm looking directly at it, and it should be there in front of you as well. I can tell
Yes.
the car is a light colored vehicle. Most
Yeah.
would say they think that's white. Okay.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, to me, it's not clearly identifiable of whether that's even a sunroof on top, not a sunroof, whether those windows are tinted or untinted. I mean, I would need a better shot of that. And if
Yeah.
this is the picture that they utilize from this camera to include in they're utilizing the defenses to try to get excluded from the trial, this to me does not showcase this car as Brian Cope.
No. Um. See,
That's
well,
my
just
opinion.
like yeah. What and see what my opinion is. Um. Just like I've stated before, and Jen stated last night, and you as well. Um. There could have been two two people in the house, one going out the sliding glass door, and then one going downstairs and out the front door. So if looking at this car, that could be one vehicle leaving the area, and the one on Ridge Road could be the second vehicle leaving the area.
I mean,
If you know what
that's
I'm
very
saying.
possible. That's very possible. But what concerns me, Robert, is the prosecution is trying to state this is Brian Koberger's car. And if you notice, the time frame is 356,
Yeah.
and then the exit is utilizing in their PCA. This is what they're utilizing in their PCA to build the timeline. You can see the vehicle down here with the light shining as it's approaching the
Yeah.
corner to make either a right or a left-hand turn. It's right down here.
Yeah. I
Now,
see it.
tell me on that how you can clearly see that any type of license plate or in the one coming in, tell me whether you can see whether this has a front license plate or not.
I can't tell with how the
There's no
the
way you
lights
can.
are. You see how the lights are, and the blur from the
Mhm.
reflection from the camera. You can't tell if this car has a front license plate. All you can see is the headlights and the reflection of the lights off the camera.
That's right. Now, see, this is where I get critical of why I think there's issues within the description of this car for one, but then also them claiming that they can identify this. Because now, if you're using this picture, to me, at this time of night, how am I supposed to truly believe that the Ridge Road, which it may be a better picture than this, but this is actually pretty crisp, in my opinion. It's pretty crisp. Like
Yeah.
this vehicle is not being blocked by another, vehicle, but this is what you would expect from an oncoming picture of a vehicle with its lights on in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with the defense that if this is not at all the pictures that are being used to identify this vehicle, because they clearly state in their paperwork, this is not the vehicle that they're utilizing to say this is Brian Kohberger's car. So the defense is
No.
wanting it to be deemed as inadmissible, and I believe that's a good way a good route to go for to protect a jury's bias on this, because if you're not utilizing something, and this is the one that they're clearly stating is suspect vehicle one. It is suspect vehicle one in their entirety of their paperwork. And this is what the defense wants excluded, are these very, very images, and probably most likely, the video that these. So they're going to attack Immel, and they're going to attack whoever this other gentleman is, the Edward Jacobson, who's with the FBI, and they're emailing each other back and forth. And you can see that they've got a 329 Ridge Road screenshot, another one, 329. It looks like they've got one at 401. So that would concern me too, considering you got to think that they're stating this crime happened between 4 a.m. and 4:20. How would you have a picture of his car at 401 on Ridge Road and still be able to stand and state that he could potentially be committing this crime between the hours of 4 a.m. and 4:20?
Yeah.
It states it right there for all of us to see. But what I think is great,
Well, it says
Robert,
right.
is
Yeah.
got a great one.
Yeah. What does that mean? Does that mean
mean,
that they got a great image of the car?
Do we believe that? Man, I can't even see my cursor. I'm trying to highlight it. I lost my cursor somewhere. The blind bat trying to do a live with the cursor is a horrible idea. But I mean, and everybody, as we discuss this, remember this is Robert's and my opinions. We're giving you our thoughts and our opinions. This is not, our factual, but we're showing you right here what the FBI has said, that on Ridge Road, that's where the car was at 329. They have a screenshot of it. A screenshot, Robert. How do you feel about screenshots?
I hate screenshots, especially if we remember that supposed screenshot that the gas station attendant took of the white car, and I mean it looked photoshopped because you could see clear through the phone that she was holding up to the screen. So I don't know if that was a real a screenshot of the car, or if that was a photoshopped screenshot of the car. The one that had the blurry, the one that
Right.
had the blurry
So, I mean,
lights
ladies and
going down
gentlemen,
the
we've
road.
got.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I just want people to kind of think in their minds now. Um, so we're thinking about the types of pictures that they've most likely tried to utilize to get this vehicle. We know that now we're looking right at them at the 1112 King Road. We know that they've got the Linda Lane where the vehicle is turning around. That's the 3-point turn that they're talking about,
Yeah.
is at the Linda Lane. I by the way they're making it sound, there's no 3-point turn anymore, Robert, at this corner. This is not where he turned around, because it sure sounds like the next pictures that they have is the Ridge Road, which I believe is the one that Ann Taylor brought into question, that the vehicle was driving in the wrong direction, and that's the one that they used for identifying the vehicle.
Yeah.
Am I right? I believe that correctly. But
Yeah, you're right, brother.
it states right here. Yeah, the video based on identification of the car is at 1125 Ridge Road. So obviously, we're not going to be able to see that. They're not going to release that to us. But how do you feel, Robert, in regards to this picture? In their minds, this would be Brian Koberger. And Don
Okay.
Caps, thank you so much for, I believe you've been a member, but now you're back as a member, and I truly thank you for that. But this would be, Brian Koberger, if this is what they're trying to claim. Vehicle suspect 1 leaving after the crime is committed. If this was a high rate of speed, do you think you get that clear of a picture from it? That doesn't seem like a high rate of
No.
speed. It looks like to me the brake light is pressed.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it looks
Yeah.
like to me.
Yeah, and you can't even see a license plate in the front at all. It's too blurry, and if you see the headlights, they're still blurry. This isn't that car is not an
Well,
Elantra.
and what that makes me think of as well, Robert. Go ahead.
No, I said that car is not a Elantra.
When I first looked at this too, I mean, I hate to say this, this is it's a little too sporty to be an Elantra, man. Like, I walk past Elantras every day of people that live where I live. They have these white Elantras, just like what they're claiming, Brian Coat. That just looks sporty to me.
Almost looks like a Dodge.
It seems like it, and I'm not a car expert by any means. I'm definitely not a car expert by any means, but that just looks like a little more money spent than what a Hyundai Elantra would look like.
Yeah.
But remember,
And
everybody,
that's a two-door.
Right?
That white car. I was gonna.
This one here.
I'm sorry for cutting you off, brother.
No, that's
fine. That's
one,
a two-door. Yeah, that's a two-door. It's not a four-door. Brian had a four-door. That's a two-door. You can tell it. You can tell it from here. That's a two-door.
That might be pretty possible there, Robert. I was thinking the same thing at first. I was thinking this is sporty, and it could potentially be a two-door. Now, I want everybody to remember as we discuss this, this is not what they utilized, they say, in identifying the car. They used the one off the Ridge Road, which Ann Taylor has specifically said was driving in the wrong direction. But now, as I read this document, they make it pretty clear that the loop that this car was taking was not at all that was described to us in the PCA. This car took a roundabout drive, and I'm telling you, we would see far more of an entrance of this vehicle. This is what concerns me, really, Robert. I mean, if I really want to just get to the point of what concerns me about this, is the fact this is showing the vehicle actually entering at 3:56 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, why did they claim the vehicle entered the area the first time at 3:29 a.m., but now the 3:29 a.m. is not on or near the home? 29 a.m. at the 1125 Ridge Road, screenshotted not only at 3:29, but then they've got MP4 of that at 3:29, and then at 4:01 they again have it. So what happened with this vehicle? I mean, I'm clearly showing it here where it states 3:29 a.m. on Ridge Road. So why in the PCA did it state he entered the crime scene where the home was, his neighborhood, at 3:29, and then they had this whole description of stuff going on, and then at the end of the day, even again at 4:01, when this time frame that they're laying out for all of us, that so many of us have dissected, this 4:01, he's back on Ridge Road again.
Yeah, that's just weird. I'm just like, just like that car. Like you said, it's sporty, and from the way it was setting, it looked like a 2-door, not a 4-door. Because aren't most Elantras 4 doors?
Yeah, pretty much all of them. I've seen some sporty ones. I thought, I'm going to be very honest with you, Robert. I don't shop Hyundai Elantras very often.
No, it didn't look like a Hyundai Elantra. It looked like like a sporty car, 2-door. Yeah, you can see right there that that's a very sporty looking car, just by the way it is, and it looks like a 2-door, not a 4-door. P. Sloan said, "Could it be a Dodge Challenger?"
That almost looks like what a. I mean, I've heard people talking about that, that they've seen that on the Linda Lane footage as well. You know what actually kind of popped into my mind, and I know the time frames aren't right, but do you remember the old Tiburons, and then you had the the Eclipses that were kind of sporty? Those are older models, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So this wouldn't fit into that category, but you're right. I mean, this makes me feel like a little sporty 2-door, which, if you remember, when we were looking at the gas station footage camera, and I'll have to save that for another show where I'll bring up the gas station footage, that looks like it's all doctored with no shoe or no tires and everything on it. It looked like a 2-door sporty model vehicle as well.
Yeah.
And if you remember, that one was at what, like 340 or something like that?
Yeah.
So I mean, it even would fit into the time frame that would kind of match in with this vehicle, and I think we could all say that that's not Brian Koberger's car.
No, because if you have this car that's yeah, I don't know if it's leaving or if it's pulling into the area, and then like you said, the Ridge Road camera, and that was a different model of car. It makes me wonder. I'm going to say it again, brother. It makes me wonder if there was not just suspect vehicle one. It makes me wonder if there was two suspect vehicles, because if it's a suspect vehicle, you wouldn't put one behind it. You would say suspect vehicle, not suspect vehicle one. So, yeah, could there be a suspect vehicle two out there somewhere?
Well, there's numerous suspect vehicles. There's no doubt in my mind that they've got numerous vehicles marked as suspect vehicle one, suspect vehicle two. We've only seen in the documents the utilization of suspect vehicle one, but they would not have suspect vehicle one if they didn't have suspect vehicle two, three,
Yeah.
four. So there's no doubt. And I'm surprised that we have the defense more of the suspect vehicles. I'm making the statement. I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to bring it up. They are claiming that this is the prosecution has included this in with their discoverable evidence to the defense, and the defense is clearly making the statement this is unnecessary to be presented at trial because this vehicle picture right here, this footage, was not utilized in the identification of Brian Koberger's car that would be used to, showcase how they got to that vehicle at trial. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, isn't it really weird that you have your visual that you've deemed to be the suspect vehicle that you're going to utilize at a quadruple homicide trial that's not actually from any cameras within the neighborhood? That's just crazy to me.
Zyro just said the hatchback CRV looking type that looking type that car. Just for the way it sits there. I mean, I can clearly, you can clearly tell it's two doors just by the way it's sitting. Because if it was a four-door vehicle, you would be able to see not only that one window but another window behind it. So just by looking at it, it looks like a two-door vehicle, and I'm going to go out on a limb, possibly maybe a Dodge or another type of sporty-looking vehicle. That's not, brother. That's not a four-door car. That's not an Elantra. That's a two-door sports car or a sporty-looking car.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it too. I'm not a car expert, so there's no way that you're going to get a actual car identification out of me. But the key point and factor to this is the defense is making it very clear that they're going to battle these definite descriptions of this vehicle and how they nailed it down to Brian Koberger's, and they're going to showcase the fact that the only description that they were able to utilize of this vehicle to pinpoint it to what they believe to be the perp's vehicle is not in the actual area of the crime. This is at the Ridge Road camera. It's going to be the only one that they were able to identify the vehicle from. So we have these so-called showings of the vehicle in the neighborhood, but these very well could get nullified by the motions in limine. But I guarantee you that the prosecution's going to battle that. They're going to battle.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to stop sharing this. I mean that's going to be a big fight, obviously, and I'm looking forward to being in the actual courtroom for these preliminary hearings. It looks like Jen and I are going to actually have to rotate around our whole actual trip because now we're realizing that the dates are the 9th and the 16th, and we don't know which one is going to be which. So we're going to do our best to try to figure out, how we're going to either be there for both and quickly get home after the fact or what we're going to do. But
Yeah.
let's move on to another one here that's extremely interesting. And I'm going to actually be doing some work on this via a couple of videos. But it's for the very first time, ladies and gentlemen, that we actually hear about fingernail clippings from Madison Mogen and what was found underneath them. And then this big fight, it's coming across motion in limine number 5 by the defense. Okay, and Taylor's attacking it as inconclusive data. Now, many would probably argue with us here, Robert, and state, if it's inconclusive data, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this up here, but I'm clicking on the wrong buttons as always. So bear with me as I get this document up for us to go and look at here. But so let me get this here. The key to this is most times when we hear of something that's like underneath the fingernails or DNA or anything of that nature, it becomes pretty damning to the defendant. But this one I found pretty interesting. As I began to work my way through this one, I began to find this very interesting because they want to limit the testimony about the statistical analysis of the item. They have it listed as Q13.1, which is fingernail scrapings. And they state that allowing such testimony would violate Mr. Kohberger's federal and state constitutional rights to due process, a fair trial, effective assistance of counsel, and confrontation of witnesses. I find that to be extremely interesting of a way to state that, Robert. Not only is it rights to due process, a fair trial, but they even throw in their effective assistance of counsel and confrontation of witnesses. What do you kind of make of that?
Effective counsel and confrontation of witnesses?
That's what it states.
I don't know what.
Yep. I'm going to highlight it here if it will allow me to. So
are they trying to
get the that are in our chat that are following with us?
Yep.
Hold on one second.
I see P. Sloan. Okay, I was going to say I see P. Sloan. A Dodge Challenger is a 2-door and it has a square kind of back like that white car in the picture.
I know a lot of people are talking about a Dodge Challenger because I've seen many other creators talking about a Dodge Challenger that loops around and supposedly comes up on the Linda Lane footage. And I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a vehicle expert. I don't identify vehicles. I don't research vehicles. I don't do any of that. So I couldn't tell you whether it was a Dodge Challenger, whether that's an Eclipse, whether that's a Hyundai Elantra, a Toyota Corolla. I don't know. I just don't know. But to me, I know that the defense is probably making a very valid statement and saying, hey, we should throw out some of this garbage that they couldn't utilize to make an actual vehicle identification on. If you can't make a vehicle identification on it, then how do you present that to connect the dots of this route to try to make this timeline fit? And, at the end of the day, it's just not even good enough quality to make an identification of.
No, it's not. I mean, that's like way above my pay grade, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's above mine too, and you know, I've done a little bit of research, and I'm gonna dig a little bit more. I don't know. Somebody asked whether the defendant has an auto ID expert. I want to say there's absolute very good chances that they have at least one, if not others. But I can't make that statement and say I'm absolutely right or correct on that. But I just don't see how this defense team would actually go into trial without having some sort of vehicle identification expert. But I mean, to kind of come back into the fingernails here, you know, the very initial part of this document, I mean, this is almost the beginning of this document, Robert, and they're saying allowing such testimony in regards to what was found underneath Maddie's fingernails. We're going to get into that in a minute. And it will help kind of
Okay.
explain some of this. But the wording of this, the federal and state constitutional rights to due process, that to me right there just points out the fact that the defense is going to state chain of custody, and however this bit of evidence was not only handled but then tested would be breaking Brian Koberger's federal and state constitutional rights. So they're going to fight that the handling of this evidence is improper. But the ones that I don't get is effective assistance of counsel and confrontation of witnesses.
Oh, I think I know where that confrontation of witnesses came from. Do you remember early on in the hearings when Vargas testified about the DNA and what happened the next day? The FBI showed up at her doorstep.
I do remember that, but that discussion I thought was in regards to the IGG. And as we come down into this, and this is inclusive data, I wanted to see right here real quick just because it caught my eye to see if there was any more. But the state in grand jury testimony, Jade Miller testified as to the results of testing done on item Q13.1, which is a swab of the left fingernail clippings from Madison Mogen. The data consisted of 3-person mixture. The statistic, the likelihood ratio, the LR, was calculated assuming that MM, obviously we know that's Maddie, was a contributor to her own fingernails. Okay, so one of the 3 was Maddie. That makes sense. I would think that you scratch your arm, you rub your face, whatever you might do with your fingernails, you're going to have some of your own DNA under there. Now, they claim, and as you can see, a lot of this is blacked out. This is showing on the screen, right, Robert? I'm in a different screen. So it's showing on the screen?
Yeah, it's showing on the screen, brother. Yeah.
Okay, so all the blacked out stuff is not me. That's them. The data from that sample was blank as to Mr. Koberger grand jury transcript at 365, 366. Miller testified that inconclusive means that an analyst is wiped out, grand jury transcript at 366. Miller went on to explain that the likelihood ratio for Mr. Koberger wiped out, grand jury transcript. So, I mean, it's really hard with all that marked out, but the argument down here kind of explains it a little bit better. The use of misleading language confuses and misleads the finder of fact and is barred by the rules 402, 403, as well as due process, in that the evidence is overly prejudicial. The erroneous admission of irrelevant and prejudicial evidence will offend due process when it renders a trial fundamentally unfair. And then they state a case law that I'm going to have to get in there and look into. Here, expanding beyond the language of the report would prejudice Mr. Koberger in that it might allow the jury to infer that the inconclusive data would mean that he might be included. LRs are different from traditional statistics that courts and juries are used to seeing and hearing. The LR is a comparison of hypotheses. It is not a statement of identity or probability of identity. So let me explain that real quick, because I've had this in a case before. They are stating this is a theory, this is a hypothesis, this is a guess, this is not known with any certainty, where most times when it comes back as confirmed, then it actually makes a clear statement of identity or probability of identity. Does that make sense, Robert? You with me, brother?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay. I'm not sure if you're reading or if you fell asleep due to my reading or what happened. But let me kind of get back into that real quick, because it gets interesting.
Yeah.
So what
like I say,
happened?
It's very interesting, brother. Can I say something real quick? MM and KG and one other unrelated. It says MM and KG and one unknown related person versus MM and two unrelated persons. This comparison was done for all of the individuals listed in Report 7 and for Mr. Kober in Report 26.
So what that's telling us, ladies and gentlemen, is when these fingernails made it to the lab. What's that?
No, go ahead. I'm listening. I was just asking. Does that mean there was an unrelated person?
All right. So what it's stating, Robert, is you're cutting in a little bit in and out. I don't know if you can put yourself on mute and then unhook your mic and try to hook it back in. It might help. Ladies and gentlemen, what this is literally stating is when they took Maddie's and everybody's fingernails to the lab, they did comparisons to see if they could negate people or if they could actually confirm some of these people and who they were. So this comparison was actually done for all of the individuals listed in the report number 7 and for Brian Kohberger in report number 26. Any number greater than 100 is considered a conclusive result, indicating that person should be included as a person of interest and their DNA is conclusive to being a match. Any number less than 0.01 is considered a conclusive result, indicating exclusion, so they're out. In the middle of that, if the LR falls within the range of 0.01 to 100, the lab just cannot draw any conclusions, and the data comes back as a reported inconclusive. So when this woman, Miller, took the stand and testified, she did not provide a full context of the analyst. So the lab reported a series of the LRs for the item 13.1, Maddie Mogen's fingernails, including an LR of 0.39 for one person, 0.485 for another individual, 0.20 for someone else, 0.0233 for another individual. And ladies and gentlemen, I think Robert's back. Robert, are you back? I'm not sure if he's here with me or not, but So it's literally giving you 1, 2, 3, 4 names. Lab report number 7. So that's not Bryan Kohberger's. All of these individuals sit in the same shoes as Mr. Kohberger, namely that the LR is exclusionary but falls in the range of inconclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, the DNA, anything that was brought out from underneath Maddie Mogen's fingernails came back to 3 other people in the same manner that it would have come back to Bryan Kohberger. It's good to see you, Echoes of Clarity. Thanks for stopping in. And I'm kind of looking at the chat to see who's here with us. I haven't heard Robert say anything in a minute. Robert, are you with us?
Yeah.
I see there's your microphone actually got worse. Maybe try just stepping down for a minute and I'll bring you right back up. So step down and then step back up because even your icon's gone. Well, it is to me. Maybe it's me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to work my way a little more through this document because I do see where people are asking, where was Bryan Kohberger? So as we scroll down through this, more importantly, Mr. Kohberger had disclosed that through further independent laboratory testing, he is eliminated as a contributor to item 13.1. So remember this, ladies and gentlemen, the Idaho lab did not eliminate Bryan Kohberger. They had to take it to a whole nother level and have their own independent laboratory do the testing. And they were able to eliminate Bryan Kohberger. So think about that for a minute. And Mr. Kohberger sought to overturn the grand jury indictment. He argued that Miller's testimony was inadmissible and misleading. The state argued that the testimony was presented to the grand jury as exculpatory and an effort to elicit favorable evidence for Mr. Kohberger. The independent lab testing conducted by the defense related to item 13.1 is indeed exculpatory. Mr. Kohberger is absolutely excluded, and the state should be precluded from Mr. So let's just kind of think about this for a minute. They did testing of the DNA found underneath all of their fingernails, but this is referring directly to Maddie Mogen's. They found a combination mixture underneath of DNA of those fingernails. That one was obviously hers. It was Maddie Mogen's. That would leave you with a combination of 3 others that all, when tested by the Idaho laboratories, came back as the same inconclusive nature as Bryan Kohberger. So they deemed Bryan Kohberger and these other individuals in the same category of inconclusive. Yet when the defense took it upon themselves to an independent laboratory, it came back as absolutely inconclusive to be Bryan Kohberger. Could not be possible it was Bryan Kohberger. But what I'm kind of just laughing a little bit about is the prosecution clearly saying that they said this in the grand jury indictment, that this was exculpatory to Bryan Kohberger. Do we really believe that Bill Thompson stood before a grand jury and screamed to the rooftops that the DNA found under Maddie Mogen's fingernails was exculpatory to Brian. I just don't believe that. I personally don't feel that. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Robert must be having a little bit of issues, so I'm going to keep moving forward with it, and hopefully he joins back with us. In conclusion of this document, a fair trial is mandated by Mr. Kohberger's federal and state constitutional rights process. I think he might be back. Are you back with us, Robert?
Yeah, my StreamYard kicked me. No, my StreamYard kicked me out.
You've been having some issues with StreamYard lately, that's for sure.
I know. We're advisors, so it's like really high. And we'll have problems with StreamYard tonight too, or just the internet in general.
To be honest with you, I don't know. Anybody in the chat, am I cutting in and out as well? Is it Robert? Is it me? Can you give us a little bit of a heads up of what you guys are hearing in the chat so that we know whether to pack it up and run for the hillside to go scream exculpatory evidence from the rooftops, or what do we want to do?
Sorry, I muted myself. I was laughing too hard.
But anyway, that's the fingernail clippings. Robert, I don't know if you got to hear the whole thing, but at the end of the day, Brian Kohberger's defense team had to take it to their own lab, do all of their own work, and at the end of the day, they 100% proved none of the DNA underneath the fingernail clippings of Maddie Mogen came back to Brian Kohberger in any way at all. So I'm not stating this is evidence that can prove somebody else's guilt, because the others that came back were inconclusive as well. So I can't point the finger at anybody. I don't know how many people's backs she was scratching and trying to scratch their arms or backs or whatever might be happening, whether it be in a manner of just giving them a good back rub, or if it's in a manner that she was literally fighting for her life. Most times when they take fingernail clippings, they're looking for perpetrators. They're looking for people that could be involved in the crime. And they found nothing that connected Brian Kohberger. So let's put this one to rest right here, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to have a lot of people diving into these documents on both sides, and then those that are like us down the middle, looking for the actual truth and the justice, that Brian Kohberger's DNA was not found underneath Maddie Mogen's fingernails. It was not found. So let's put that one to rest. He's excluded.
Question: why custody if his DNA was not found on Maddie under her fingernails?
I hate to say it, brother. I
do it.
I couldn't understand what you were saying, Robert. I'm sorry. Say it one more time. Let's see if it's really cutting in and out bad.
I was saying that should be a clear giveaway. Brian didn't do it because if his DNA is not found on the victims or under their fingernails, why is he still in custody? It just sounds like a frame job.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna make the statement that we don't know, one, what was found underneath the other victim's fingernails. I in my opinion, I want to see what comes back underneath Kaylee's and Xana's. Those are the two I would really heavily want to look at and see would be Kaylee's and Xana's. But there's two ways you can look at this. There's other people's DNA underneath her fingers. Did they do any type of investigation into those individuals? Or two, are we just going to stay on the board that it's just, no evidence there because she was truly asleep and didn't even scratch anybody during this, unaliving. I hate that word, unaliving. While her life was being taken via stabbing, that she didn't put her hands up in any way and fight for her life. That means she took a pretty catastrophic blow right off the bat. But I don't know why even the prosecution, knowing that the results of this would be inconclusive, would even want to try to introduce something like this to the jury. Like, why would you even want to do that? And I get the fact you have to do it when you get into the grand jury. But do we really feel, ladies and gentlemen, Robert and everybody in the chat, how much evidence of exculpatory nature do you think Bill Thompson and Ashley Jennings and some of these people actually laid out for people to see? I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Neither do I. It's basically, brother, this is all circumstantial evidence. Is a circumstantial evidence case.
Well,
they only have
I think
they only have 117 pieces of evidence.
And I agree with you. I think all of us that have been following this case for so long have come down to the realization that when we say that this is literally a circumstantial case, that's the absolute truth. There is no mound of evidence in this case that's going to be so damning that Bryan Kohberger doesn't have a chance to win this case. And people would continue to point, and they'll point, and they'll point at that DNA. But ladies and gentlemen, if you see just how all these other results of testing and how deep the defense had to do to get to the truth of even the fingernail shavings of Madison Mogen had to be tested by their own investigators to actually exclude Bryan Kohberger, because the prosecution and their experts and the people doing all of their testing would not do that, even though there were 3 other people potentially with higher amounts of DNA found underneath those fingernails. And we don't even know if Bryan Kohberger's was any part of those findings, because it seems like to me, Robert, that Bryan Kohberger's team came back and found out none of it was his. This is Madison Mogen and potentially 3 other people.
Yeah. And just like Christy Gonzalez has stated, before in the past, that the room that Maddie was in was so tiny. Basically, she would, she could have been trapped in there. Plus we've also heard that there was, even Christy Gonzalez has stated, there was 3 unknown male DNAs found in Maddie's room.
That's right. And there's much more to this story that I think is going to be very important. And we're going to touch base with a lot more of this. I'm going to, if you want to join me tomorrow night again, Robert, I'm going to be going live again tomorrow night. I'm going to be going over legitimately Dylan Mortensen's bedroom and how that plays a major part into her witness identification. And also, I don't know if you heard, Robert, everything that we've been thinking and saying from the very beginning, that Dylan Mortensen did not stay in her room and sleep in her room for the entire night, is now proven. She slept in Bethany's room. Dylan Mortensen, after seeing the perpetrator leave the home, ventured down into Bethany's room and spent the night. That's pretty
Lying
big,
little,
isn't
you
it?
know. Yeah, lying little, you know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow with Robert, let's leave that little discussion with one very, very good comment. Frozen shock phase is no longer. Let's just get rid of that now. Frozen shock phase is a narrative fed to you by the prosecution and by those in support of Bryan Kohberger's guilt. There is no frozen shock phase.
And brother, I never believed that from day one. And you know, I've had discussions about my thoughts on that too. Yeah, I've never believed frozen shock phase from day one.
Well, remember, Robert, we were led to believe they were all asleep. Then it started to trickle out. I don't know. I don't think they were all asleep. And then it was Dylan and Bethany could possibly be even text messaging during this occurrence.
Yeah.
Then it was, okay, well, Bethany knows nothing. Dylan went back into her room, locked the door, and was scared in frozen shock phase, and that's why 911 was not called. Now we're being told after the perpetrator left the home, and there's much more to this, and we'll go through this tomorrow, Robert. There is so much more to this part of the story that will blow your mind. It'll blow your mind, and it will tell you exactly how we get to bushy eyebrows. And it's not Bryan Kohberger's bushy eyebrows. Just wait for that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get into that tomorrow night. I know many of you probably have already heard it, and it's crazy, Robert, and you and I will talk about it, but it's wild. But just understand, ladies and gentlemen, this young lady that was supposedly in frozen shock phase, after the perpetrator left, walked herself down the flight of stairs to Bethany's room, and that's where she spent the night. There's a change in narrative for you. It's a quick one.
I'm just going to say this up front, brother. She knows more than, what she's saying. She knows more. They both know more.
Well, just wait till we go over.
I will.
That document. Well, you know what? Why don't we end the night with that document? You want to go with that document? We'll end the night with that. I had a few others I was thinking, but let's go over. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, Robert. And I'm going to bring up Dylan Mortensen's information because let me tell you, this is unbelievable. But I do have to figure out which one it was under again. Oh, it's right here.
Evil okay. CJ's in
bring this up,
in the chat.
Is he?
Evil CJ's
good to see you, Evil. Thanks for stopping by joining us as I'm sitting over here playing games on my computer, trying to figure all this out. Let me figure out what I'm doing here. So I want to go ahead. Robert, one day I'm going to figure out what I'm fully doing, but I am going to do this. Now, Robert, you know how some of the creators out there, and this is not making fun of anybody. This is not poking fun. This is nothing, but they say, I've got some wham bams and bam bams and all this stuff for you. Well, this one's got a bam for everybody. It literally has a bam for everybody. So Dylan Mortensen, as I just kind of explained to you, didn't sleep in her bedroom. But even more of what happened with this is crazy. I'm not sure if I want to read the entire thing. Let me see. So the defense, I'm just going to summarize this real quick. They filed a motion, order in limine, excluding any evidence referencing to the bushy eyebrows. More specifically, the defense is asserting that rules 403, 601, and 602, which I'll go through tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll have information to where we'll be able to read those and look directly at what those are, of the Idaho Rules of Evidence bar witness Dylan Mortensen from using the words bushy eyebrows or identifying Mr. Kohberger in that manner. So this is kind of a long document, so that's why I kind of want to end with this one, Robert. I had others that we were going to talk about, but we'll finish up with this one. So the issue of witness identification is a critical one in a trial that is subject of much litigation. That is because the reliability of witness identification is the linchpin in determining the admissibility of identification information. Gives another case that I'll dive into, everybody, and we'll have more info about that too tomorrow.
Okay.
Failure to challenge unreliable witness identification can result in finding that trial counsel's performance was deficient and provide a basis for overturning a conviction. So this is where the defense, Robert, protects themselves as counsel, saying that they have to fight every nail, every tooth and nail of the case to make sure that they've represented Brian Kohberger in the best route. So what they're wanting to do is, because Dylan Mortensen herself is unreliable, and her testimony based upon things that they find within this and discuss, that she altogether, testimony, person, everything, should be excluded because she is unreliable. It states clearly, although she has never identified Mr. Kohberger, testimony by Dylan from the witness stand describing bushy eyebrows while Mr. Kohberger sits as the accused at trial will be as damning as her pointing to him saying he is the man that did this. So obviously the defense is clearly stating they're worried that while the jury is listening to Dylan Mortensen's testimony, which I think this makes it pretty clear, Dylan Mortensen's going to testify. The defense is already trying to regulate what she can say and how she can say it. I mean, what's kind of your thoughts so far in regards to Dylan testifying? How do you feel about her being relied upon as a credible witness?
That's just it. She's not a credible witness. She's admitted that she was drunk, didn't know if it was real or a dream. Technically, she said, I honestly didn't know what was going on. And then the whole elephant in the room. He was white. I don't know how he was white, but he was white. And now we're finding out that she wasn't even in her room all night. She was downstairs with Bethany. So so she clearly, if you were truly in frozen shock phase, you wouldn't. As soon as the killer left, you wouldn't wander your way down, down through this bloody crime scene, down the stairs and into Bethany's room. Something tells me she knew the person that did this, or she knows more than what she's saying, and people's now finding out that she's uncredible. She's she's a liar, and this guy is facing 4 counts of a first-degree murder with the death penalty, and she's just going to sit back like nothing happened and the whole bushy eyebrow thing. I say take her part of that probable crap affidavit and throw it away.
Yep, and wait as we work through this. We're going to get to the major parts because I don't think that we have enough time tonight to really tackle this in depthly. But let's just start. The basis of actually considering an identification by a witness to be reliable, the Idaho Supreme Court applied the Manson-Biggers balancing test, which looks at 1, the opportunity of the witness to view the criminal at the time of the crime. 2, the witness degree of attention. 3, the accuracy of the witness prior description of the criminal. And 4, the level of certainty demonstrated at the identification. 5, the length of time between the crime and the identification. So they got some pretty direct ways of looking at this. The reliability of the witness identification is non-existent. Dylan Mortensen is the only person alive who is known to have seen the intruder. So they're pretty much stating right here, it's pretty clear, they're stating that Bethany did not see the intruder in the home, and she could not possibly identify Bryan Kohberger in any manner as being someone at the crime scene. So they state, Robert, that Dylan Mortensen only saw the intruder briefly. Her recollection or lack thereof is filled with uncertainty, fuzziness, the influence of alcohol, dreaming, and sleepiness. She did not see the intruder well enough to describe him to a composite artist. So after Mr. Kohberger was arrested, she did not recognize him from a photo. And I always ask myself, and I think you did too, why did we never see any type of a composite photo when you have an actual eyewitness from the crime scene itself? And this right here clarifies she could not at all have been able to do that.
No. You have I almost called him John Judge. You have Judge Hippler, who swears that she is this credible witness and everything was true and correct. He said the same thing about Payne and Mowry. This judge does not want this case in his courtroom. That's why he is so fast tracking it to where he can get it out of his courtroom, because he doesn't want it there.
Well, now prepare yourself, Robert, because we're going to get into the relevant facts. Part A, bushy eyebrows. Number 1, interviews on November 13th, the date of the crime. Dylan Mortensen was inside the house when the murders occurred and saw a figure dressed in black. Heron asked intruder when she peeked out her bedroom door at 4 a.m., around 4 a.m. Shortly after seeing the intruder, she went downstairs to Bethany Funk's room. Okay, so right here, I'm already confused. She peeked out of her bedroom around 4 a.m. Shortly after seeing that intruder, she went downstairs to Bethany's Funk. That's very poor wording, because that leaves out a lot that transpired from the first time that she opened her door and heard things, to the point now she's opening her door to see an intruder, and shortly after that wanders her little butt downstairs into Bethany's room, to where the two girls fell asleep. Roughly 8 hours later, a 911 call was made from Bethany's phone at 11:56 a.m. And they've got more motion in limine number 7, Nunez narrative report. So we'll get into that another time too. So more than 8 hours after seeing the intruder, Dylan was interviewed by law enforcement at the scene and the police department. It was confusing to Dylan that the intruder looked at her but did not come towards her or say anything. When describing the intruder to Officer Nunez at the scene, she described the height, the build, and the clothing the intruder was wearing. Her description did not mention eyebrows at all. When she called Bethany before going downstairs, there's a new clue. When she called Bethany before going downstairs to Bethany's room, Dylan said she was kind of in and out of it. I was really tired. What? I mean, it's already getting crazy, isn't it, Robert?
Yeah. Why would you call Bethany after seeing an intruder? Or no, after seeing the intruder leave? Why would you call Bethany then?
I mean, why not just go down to her room? I mean, are these people so distant from each other, Robert, that if you're gonna head down and have the open-mindedness to be able to, or not open-mindedness, but the connectivity with each other to be able to sleep in each other's room, that you feel like you got to call them first? Hold on, Robert. I gotta call my wife to see if it's okay for me to come into bed to go to bed tonight. But moving forward, Robert, it gets crazier. Later, when
Oh
she was
God.
interviewed at the police department, because remember that interview took place at the crime scene. I mean, how piss poor of a law enforcement agent would even do that? You're interviewing her after a quadruple homicide at the crime scene? That just doesn't make sense. But
People were
Detective
cleared too
Bowery,
quick.
yeah, Detective Mowry jumped in and inquired about facial features and asked him if she knew what color the intruder's eyebrows were. So this this stands out to me because you didn't ask what color he was, what ethnic background he could potentially be. You didn't ask what color his hair on his head was. You didn't ask, could you see his eyes? Did he have a beard? Did he have a mustache? Literally, Detective Mowry inquired about facial features and asked DM if she knew what color the intruder's eyebrows were. And this is based off of motion in limine number 7, Exhibit 3, Mowry interview transcript. So that has not been released to us, ladies and gentlemen, because that's an exhibit, and exhibits are staying sealed for the time being. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, it states right here, Dylan Mortensen did not know the color of the intruder's eyes nor his eyebrows. Everything was just kind of blurry. Like, I don't fully remember it. During the Mowry interview, Dylan Mortensen again mentioned that she was in and out of it because she was so tired. She was so tired, Robert.
Oh my God. So tired from being drunk. So tired from being in a fake frozen shock phase. She wandered her little butt downstairs.
Yep. And then, because of that, she couldn't even give a good identification of the intruder that was in her home that took the lives of 4 other people. I mean, that's scary. That's scary. But here's where it gets kind of fascinating, Robert. Number 2, and this is where we'll probably end the night because this is going to be a good 15-minute discussion when you hear this one. Pictures on November 13th, 2022. Law enforcement took pictures of Dylan's bedroom on November 13th, 2022. And then they returned to do it again on November 19th of 2022. On the walls of Dylan Mortensen's room were many pictures of eyes with prominent eyebrows, many of which she herself, Dylan Mortensen, had drawn. Some of the eyebrows are heavy, voluminous, puffy, or perhaps bushy. According to Detective Lake, he found artwork of human figures with an emphasis upon the eyes, and eyebrows were pinned to cork boards. This comes from the search of Dylan's room. There's a lot more that goes into this that we're going to have to tackle because this is a lot of info. But Robert, let's think about this and just really portray this out there for a minute. The law enforcement walk into Dylan Mortensen's room on the date that this crime was found, after being committed on the very same day. And what they find on her walls are her drawings, her art, what she created. And it all really just portrays eyes and eyebrows. Imagine
Does
that.
she have a fetish for eyes and eyebrows?
Well, and there may be more to that in the document. This is the first time I'm literally going through this document in complete nature, is right here with you. And like I said, because of the time restraints, ladies and gentlemen, because, Robert and I, it's late where Robert is. And I did a fun live last night that went late into the night with Lucky. So if you haven't been able to see the one I did with Unfiltered Lucky, please venture and take a look at that. It was a good show. But Robert, I mean, this is mind-boggling to the point I think you and I just literally have to sit down together and just go through this document by itself, because this is going to be extremely telling of many parts of this case.
Oh yeah.
This is
eyes
going,
eyes and eyebrows drawn out on and put on corkboard. That's just kind of weird and kind of creepy.
from the way they explain it later, I did get to read a little bit to where it seems like the entire room was covered in this type of artwork. But you gotta really put it into the perspective. Why would law enforcement interrogators / interviewers continue down the path of interviewing Dylan Mortensen when, one, she clearly states, I was tired, I was intoxicated, but then you start working on the emphasis that you utilize in the PCA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's so sickening about this, and I've screamed about this PCA for so long. This is a theory-based document written by law enforcement to prove to a judge that they potentially have the right story to arrest the defendant in this case, which turns out to be Bryan Kohberger. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have World War VIII going on in my back room with my dogs right now. It's nuts back there. But you're going to continue this discussion with the young lady in regards to an identification that she doesn't know whether it's fantasy or real. And then you look at her walls and you see everything you see, and the conversation turns to bushy eyebrows. Bushy eyebrows.
Yeah.
Guys, that's
It's
the
just weird.
identifying marker that's being used on a visual for Bryan Kohberger being this perpetrator. That is an eyewitness characteristic that is being used by law enforcement to go after Bryan Kohberger. And now we find out what they walked into in Dylan Mortensen's, a survivor's room on the very floor that two people lost their lives, and just below the other two. The closest room to everybody.
Yeah.
And this is your creditable witness. And I know, Kent, the third interview, I get it. I mean, we're going to have to really break into these, Robert. It will be a great show when we do, because this document is unreal. Like, it's unreal. I was getting into the Amazon, click and different documents. I really felt, I wanted to jump into. I wanted to learn as much as I could, as quick as I could. I just kind of got excited, I guess, and I planned this live. And then I was like, oh, man, it's getting late. I kept pushing the time back on it. But this is something for you and I tomorrow. If you want to come on earlier tomorrow than this late time, we can come on earlier to where it's more, economical time for everybody, like 6 p.m. your time, 4 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we can spend some good time on a couple of these documents, because there's some very important documents here. This isn't the only important one, but this one we got to dive into, because this says a lot.
Now, I have a question. They found the blood on the railing going from the second floor to the first floor, right?
Correct.
How do we know that wasn't from Dylan going down the stairs?
You and I's head, our brains work very much alike, Robert, because now we're finding out somebody from the second floor actually walked down to the first floor. And who's to say her hand wasn't in somebody's blood just on accident, or maybe not accident, or it's her blood mixed with other blood. And that's why law enforcement just decided to not move forward with it. Could she have stumbled through this horrifically bad crime scene to go downstairs and fall asleep in Bethany's room, and neither one of them came to the conclusion that their buddies had lost their lives on the 2 floors above where Bethany slept? I mean, that's pretty crazy to think about, because she walked right through the crime scene, my man.
Yeah. And Denise Koenig said, wasn't it male DNA on the railing, though?
You know what? I don't know. From what it's been listed at, it's being said as if they found other unidentified male DNAs. But is that all they found? Is that all they found?
Yeah. Now, I have a question. They found that mixture there in Pennsylvania of male and female blood. What if that female blood that they found was Dylan's in that mixture? Because it said major male and minor female.
Well, can I throw a real tinfoil hat moment at you real quick, Robert? And I know we're going to wrap this up, but I've got a real tinfoil hat type thought going on here. Dylan Mortensen now has stated that she left the second floor and went down to the first floor to sleep in Bethany's room. We've also heard that front door was seen open the next morning.
Yeah.
I've also seen video from body cam footage of law enforcement with a big black truck driving away from where that home sits. In the back of my head, I know somebody's boyfriend has a big black truck. You know who I'm talking about?
Quinn Kelly.
Oh boy, the kid that felt like he had to do some sort of little post somewhere else saying he was not at the crime scene.
Jumping up and down going, I'm here.
But here's my little tinfoil hat theory, because we watched that truck drive away in the 3 o'clock hour, not 4 o'clock hour. 3 o'clock a.m. hour. Are you telling me that we're 100% set on the time frame of when this crime was committed? Because I do kind of remember a family coming out stating the 2 a.m. hour was the dark hour.
Yep.
Okay. I know everybody was back in that home by 1:56 a.m. when they said Maddie and Kaylee arrived home from the driver, and everybody was deemed to be within the home by that time. Correct?
Correct.
Could it be possible that the black truck driving away from the home could potentially be unidentified male DNA on the first floor handrail because he walked down with his girlfriend through a crime scene and left the scene in a black truck caught on video camera, distinctly caught on video camera. Night and day, you can look at that truck and you know exactly what it is. There's no deciphering what that truck is. It's clear as day. Leaving the crime scene. Maybe not. Maybe it's just leaving the area. But it kind of seems the same thing as a white Hyundai Elantra just happened to be leaving the area. Right?
Who else drives a white Hyundai Elantra? Oh, let's see. Jack D.
Also, a friend of Bethany Funk from the same area as Queen Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
There's numerous other people with a clear as day white car. As a matter of fact, when the truck was leaving that very area, you can see a white car entering the area. That was not Brian Koberger's, because that was not the time frame they set that Brian Koberger entered the area. So I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, when I put on my little tinfoil hat, I start spinning a little crazy. And I'm not saying that these individuals are the perpetrators of the crime, because I don't know. But my clear as day point is, I don't believe the time frame that they state this crime was committed in is the appropriate time frame, meaning their timeline of events is off, meaning the visual of that white car that they're trying to use as evidence could potentially be the wrong vehicle they need to be looking at because it's the wrong time.
Yeah. Now I have to say this. I've been, like you, I've been screaming stuff, at the top of the mountains. I honestly believe, if you look at it, Kaylee's phone goes offline at 2:56. You have the alcohol stop there on Banfield at 2:54. You see a black truck drive really slow down there by Banfield. Going this way. As the officer is bringing these three people up in front of the car, you can see 4 or 5 people in the background on body cam underneath the street light, either running or walking away from the area of the crime scene really fast. A little bit after 3, you have all this activity going on around the home from 2:54 to 3:16 in the morning. Kaylee's phone goes offline at 2:56, but according to this bogus timeline, none of that matters because suspect vehicle 1 comes into the area at 3:29. So, I don't buy the whole 4 a.m. timeline. I buy in between 2:54 and 3:16 in the morning, because look at all that activity.
And that's gonna be a great conversation, obviously, to jump into as we work through some more of this stuff tomorrow day. But the thought process to me is they've just got this timeline set to fit Brian Koberger. And I'm starting to see pointing of the fingers that it could potentially have happened the very vehicles we're seeing before Brian Koberger's. So if you want to make the claim that the vehicle that we're watching on this, these pictures that you're releasing in these things regarding Brian Koberger's white Hyundai Elantra and the Linda Lane is the actual timeline. Well, I'm kind of stepping in now. I'm very interested now in that, that blood that's leading from that second floor to that first floor, because now you've got unidentified male DNA, blood. Not touch DNA on a sheet. You got blood. And it's lining up more with a different timeline.
Yes, and just like you and I discussed last night through text message, Yeah, especially with Brett Payne, who stated in that transcript they couldn't upload the unknown male B and unknown male D because they didn't want to destroy the DNA from the knife sheath. Well, later on that hearing, Ryland Nowlin said that you could upload more than one IgG. So that right there tells me that they didn't want to upload it because they didn't want to pursue other suspects.
That's right. I mean, and this is where we're gonna part our ways for tonight, Robert, and we're gonna hold a lot of this discussion because there's so much more in these documents that we need to go through. This is fresh, this is new, and I know people are listening to some great creators go through it word for word and do all of this, but we're gonna throw some insight from a different point of view, a unique one, and really try to make some sense out of these while also diving into some other thoughts and theories that could potentially lead to these things being so critical. So I definitely want to say thank you for you to joining me tonight. And I want to say thank you for everybody that's in the chat. You guys have been absolutely amazing. We're leaving you on a cliffhanger. For those of you that were unable to catch Unfiltered Lucky and I last night, please stop by. I also want to give a big shout out. Robert, I don't know if you noticed, but Pete with Murder Mail Mayhem was back on the platform today, released a new video. Very exciting to have him back. So
I went and watched the video, and I left him a like, and I left him a comment saying, "Great to have you back."
It is great to have him back, and it was great to hear his thoughts. He had some very educational thoughts and point of views, and I'm just excited to see him dive back in and get healthy and get back with us. But I definitely want to say good night to everybody and a big thank you for all of you that have joined us. My wife has walked in the door, so I'm going to pay her some attention after a long day of work. And again, thank you to all of you. Robert, thank you for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, Bootsy just subscribed to my channel.
Awesome, Bootsy. Definitely appreciate you and would keep an eye out on your work as well, as I'm definitely excited to see what you have to add to the platform. And if there's any way Robert or I could help you in any way, please reach out. Please email us. Please let us know. And I'm sure we'd be more than happy to help in any way we can. So I want to say thank you again. Everybody have a great night. Right. Cliffhanger, we'll be talking about the eyes on the walls tomorrow.
Yeah, creepy eyes.